Have you ever seen this funny little symbol and wondered, I wish I knew where this came from? Well, you're in luck, because today I will be summarizing the history of grunge and with it, where one of the most iconic symbols in pop culture comes from. Before we start, we need a little background, beginning in the 1980s, and specifically with glam metal. For those who are unaware, glam metal is like regular metal, but way over the top and with an excessive amount of hairspray. There was so much oversaturation of this genre in the 80s that many started using a derogatory term to refer to it, hair metal. Because of the weird looking hair. Anyways, many people were tired of the same old sound of hair metal, and they wanted something different. They were in luck because something was brewing in the small music scene in Seattle, Washington. Now, in the 80s, Seattle wasn't the destination it had become today. Bands wouldn't travel there because it was too far away from places like California, where they would normally tour, and because of the rain. As it turns out, it rains for approximately 150 days each year in Seattle, which makes it less than desirable weather for any band. However, this created the perfect corner of the world for a movement to start that would change everything. Inspired by bands such as Dinosaur Jr., the Sonic Youth, and the Pixies, many Seattle musicians started developing a more stripped down sound, with more serious lyrics about drugs, materialism, etc., etc. This sound would go on to be coined grunge. One such musician was Mark Arm, the frontman for local Seattle band Green River. Along with guitarist Steve Turner, bassist Jeff Ament, and drummer Alex Vincent, Green River is considered the first grunge band with their debut EP, Come On Down, in 1984. This album, and the band as a whole, went on to inspire many grunge bands going forward, and many members from the band went on to other popular grunge bands such as Pearl Jam and Mudhoney, but more on them later. Green River, along with 5 other early grunge bands, were featured on an album called Deep Six, a compilation of tracks by each of the bands that is seen as the founding document for grunge. The Declaration of Grunge Dependence, if you will. This album includes, as previously mentioned, Green River, along with Melvins, Soundgarden, Malfunction, Skinyard, and The Human. This album put many grunge bands on the map for various record labels, such as frontman Chris Cornell and his band Soundgarden, who signed with A&M Records in 1989. Additionally, Alice in Chains signed with Columbia Records at this time and released their album Facelift, which was the first taste of mainstream success for grunge. At this time, a little-known band from Aberdeen, Washington called Nirvana released their first album, Bleach, which got them picked up by Geffen Records. Remember that symbol from earlier? Well, this is the band it belongs to, but we aren't there just yet. We first have to talk about the Big Five, and no, I don't mean the sporting goods store. The Big Five were considered the most important grunge bands during the peak of the genre. This included Nirvana, Pearl Jam, Soundgarden, Alice in Chains, and Stone Temple Pilots. Now, that last one is a bit of an oddity. Unlike many other bands previously mentioned, Stone Temple Pilots were actually founded in California, away from the rest of the scene in Seattle and, in Nirvana's case, Aberdeen, Washington. However, their contributions to the genre can't be overlooked, but more on that later. The success of Facelift by Alice in Chains ushered in the golden years of grunge music, which started in 1991 with the release of one of the most influential albums of all time. And this is where that smiley face logo comes from. Nirvana's second album and first studio album, Nevermind, was extremely successful, to put it mildly. Much of this was due to the song Smells Like Teen Spirit. But before we get there, we just need a wee bit more background. I know I keep saying we need more background, but this is the last time, I swear. Okay, so backing up just a little bit. There's this guy, his name is Kurt Cobain, and he's the frontman for this band called Nirvana, with bassist Chris Novoselic and drummer Dave Grohl. Kurt Cobain was also in a relationship with Toby Vale, the lead singer of the band Bikini Kill. Fellow lead singer Kathleen Hanna made the association that because Kurt was dating Vale, and Vale wore a deodorant called Teen Spirit, that Kurt smells like Teen Spirit, or essentially like his then-girlfriend Vale. So on the wall of Kurt's home, she spray-painted, Kurt smells like Teen Spirit. Kurt Cobain saw it and used it as inspiration towards one of the most culturally significant songs of all time. Fast forward to 1991, Smells Like Teen Spirit skyrockets in popularity due to its constant play on MTV, eventually dethroning even Michael Jackson to take the #1 spot on the Billboard 200. Smells Like Teen Spirit and Nevermind were hugely popular, and the logo that was used to market the album, the smiley face from earlier, became the de facto logo for the band going forward. Nirvana wasn't the only one that was swept up by success. Pearl Jam released their album 10 later that year, which also became massively popular, with many songs such as Alive and Even Flow becoming hits that propelled them into fame. By the end of 1991, grunge was the height of pop culture, and would only continue going strong the following year with the release of albums such as Soundgarden's Bad Motorfinger, Alice in Chains' Dirt, and Stone Temple Pilots' Core. But with success comes the vultures of corporate America, trying to make a quick buck off of literally anything that moves. And they were foaming at the mouth to get in on the grunge train. Grunge was everywhere in the early 90s, and so was grunge fashion. You may be asking, what is grunge fashion? Well, here is a step-by-step guide on how to make a grunge outfit. Step 1. Torn baggy jeans. Step 2. A baggy t-shirt, often one that is a metal or punk band if you want some extra points. And step 3. Flannels. Flannels here, flannels there, flannels everywhere. And congratulations, you have made a grunge outfit. Grunge fashion was what many poor kids in the Pacific Northwest wore, and it went hand in hand with the more down-to-earth style of grunge music compared to the insane outfits of hair metal music. Thus, grunge fashion became mainstream during the height of the genre, and every clothing store around would have flannels here, flannels there, and flannels everywhere, along with baggy jeans and the works. The over-commercialization of grunge, along with it becoming mainstream, led many in the Seattle area, where it was local to turn their back on the genre, associating grunge with some kind of forbidden word. Meanwhile, the artists weren't happy about the over-commercialization either, so the members of Nirvana had an idea to make a more heavy sound that is anti-radio. This sound went into Nirvana's third and final album, In Utero, which was released in 1993. Despite the fact that the album was blatantly anti-radio and anti-pop, it was still a huge hit and made them even more of a sensation. Many of the Big Five were now releasing their second and even third albums at this point, with Jar of Flies by Alice in Chains and Super Unknown by Soundgarden both releasing in 1994. Along with them, the second wave of grunge bands started to emerge, such as Candlebox and their self-titled album, plus many more. The sheer amount of music being produced from the grunge genre oversaturated the market and started leading to declining record sales. Along with that, on April 5, 1994, many grunge fans would wake up to the news that Nirvana frontman Kurt Cobain has passed away. Throughout Nirvana's reign, Kurt struggled with mental health issues and heroin addiction, which ended in 1994 with Kurt taking his life. It was somber news that shocked the music world and was one of the turning points that marked the death of grunge. Declining record sales from the new grunge bands, along with the old ones often finding different genres to explore and evolve their sound into, and many early deaths in the genre, led to the death of grunge. But the effect of those bands and their music influenced many artists in the years that followed. After grunge had died off, there was an emergence of post-grunge, a return to form with more upbeat messages than grunge, but still keeping the stripped-down style of music. Some of these bands include Bush, Candlebox, and Collective Soul. In addition to post-grunge was Britpop, a reaction to the darker messages and sadder tone of grunge music with happier, more radio-friendly music. This includes bands such as Blur, Pulp, and Oasis. Even though grunge came and went in only a few years, the impact of bands such as Nirvana, Soundgarden, Pearl Jam, Alice in Chains, Stone Temple Pilots, and so many more have left a significant impact on music and pop culture, which is why this smiley face is one of the most culturally significant symbols of all time.